Alright, how's it going, guys, and welcome back to another build video. I've decided that I'm going to do 2 videos a week, one on Tuesday, maybe Monday, depending on how things go, and that will be either like a Lost Sector video or in the future a PvP video, depending on, how it goes. Of course, if you have ideas, comment them down below. If you like the video, like it, and subscribe if you want to keep coming back. Now, this week, we have a hunter build. Now, my hunter builds in the past, video-wise, like, watch, retention, whatever you want to call it, haven't done well, but we're just going to move on with that one because I like this build. It is an easy Nightstalker build, and anybody can do it, whether you are a new player or a seasoned veteran. Now, to start, this build doesn't make use of exotics to make it work. It just uses exotics to make them feel better and work better. Now, the main thing we're really going to look at here is the on bottom tree Nightstalker. It is the Heart of the Pack buff. This grants a bonus to mobility, resilience, recovery, as well as weapon handling. Now, this buff grants you a plus 34 in those stats at 1 stack of the buff, and the weapon bonus at 3 stacks of the buff. Now, to get this, you can either, you throw your smoke at your feet and make you and your allies invisible, everybody getting the buff, or by killing things with your tethers. What this means, though, is that you don't need to run 100s. If your stat distribution isn't as great as you would wish it to be, you can run it with mid-60s to 70s and get your 100s up all the time. And due to the class ability on there called Combat Provision, your grenade and melee will be up a lot as well. Combat Provision states that damaging an enemy with a grenade grants melee energy ability, and making allies invisible grants grenade energy. So as long as you're rotating your abilities between your smoke grenade and your grenade itself, you're gonna get this a lot. And towards the end of the video, I'm gonna show you a way to get them back even faster. Now, you're probably thinking, well, that means I should have a high intellect as well, try to bump that up. Actually, this can be your lowest stat, and I'll explain that here probably towards the middle of the video. Now, I know tethers aren't great this season due to a canceling particle deconstruction, which is the top tier damage perk for literally everything this season. However, this build does not require any use of seasonal mods, therefore, in which you can use this whenever, wherever. This is the ultimate Nightstalker build that does not require you to have artifacts, seasonal artifacts. So let's, take a look at some of these extra mods that you can use to make your build even better. First, you are gonna want something to make elemental wells, whether they be melee well maker or elemental armaments or whatever. I used elemental ordnance, which is defeating a combat with a grenade spawns an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type. Now that we have wells, how are we going to use them? Well, no pun intended, they're going to be used in 2 ways. One way is to refund your abilities as they would normally do, and the second one is Font of Wisdom. Picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type grants you a temporary, significant increase in your intellect, improving the recharge rate of your super. This is why you don't need to go so heavily into your intellect. This mod brings you to 100 intellect by picking up an elemental well. So if you have 70 in your mobility, resilience, and recovery, you will get to 100 with 1 stack of Heart of the Pack. And now once you pick up an elemental well, you will now have 100 intellect. You now have 4 100s in your stats for the duration of those buffs. Now, to make Font of Wisdom just a little better, we're going to add Elemental Time Dilation. Elemental well mods that grant you time-limited benefits now stack, increasing the duration of the effect for each copy of the mod you have equipped. So with this mod and 1 Font of Wisdom, you get an extra 5 seconds, which, 5 seconds is not much, but that could give you more time to pick up another elemental well, thus resetting the buff. So, you're going to have more intellect, you're going to have your intellect buff longer, and you're going to have your 100s on your mobility, resilience, and recovery. Now, to bring this build up to another level, you can add a few things. One of which, you can add Monte Carlo, which will make your melee come back super fast, as well as having anti-barrier. So, we may as well call that 100 strength as well. So now we're up to, if you're running mid-tier stats, you now have 100 mobility, 100 recovery, and 100 resilience. Pick up an elemental well, you now have 100 intellect. And now with Monte Carlo, you may as well have 100 strength. So, you know what? Let's take it another step further. Let's make it 6. So, let's add a gun with Demolitionist to get grenade energy back as well. I use a Truth Teller with Blinding Nades, as, you know, Blinding Nades are really helpful in high tier content. So, with 2 weapons, 2 mods, and a class buff, you have at any given time 6 100 stats, or at least very close depending on your stat distribution. So, other ways to make this feel really good, there's a few exotic armor pieces that you can pair this with. First up is 6 Coyote, which is simple as you gain a second dodge. So, dodge, get your melee back, smoke some people, repeat the process. You know, very simple and effective exotic. People use this for GMs before we had our next thing, which was Omnioculus. You get a second smoke bomb charge and have damage resistance while invisible. You make an ally invisible, they gain damage resistance while invisible, and you gain melee energy. So basically, you know, you're giving them those bonus stats, and you're giving them damage resistance while giving yourself melee energy on back on top of that. So at that point, you don't even need Monte Carlo if you're on an Omni. Like, you know, to be fair, you really don't need Monte Carlo for any of this. That's just an added thing for whatever. And then finally, one that I've been using a lot is Graviton Forfeit, which increases the duration of any invisibility effects while you are invisible. Your melee recharges faster, your weapons reload faster, and your recovery is greatly increased. So this grants a little bit of extra invisibility, melee charge rate, and weapon bonuses. You know, they never hurt. Some things you can do even further if you're running this in higher end content. You can run Elemental Charge, the one where you pick up a well and you become charged with light, and you can also run Protective Light, that will help, or you can also run Well of Tenacity. Well of Tenacity is big. You get a bonus damage resistance when picking up an elemental well that is void. You're void, you're going to be making void elemental wells anyway, so just pick them up, get your resistance. You know, with your mid-tier stats, you know, your 65, 70s, whatever, 66, technically, you know, you want to get technically if you want to get 100s. 66 to 70, you're going to get 100 in your top 3 stats by smoking you and your allies with Heart of the Pack buff. Then by picking up an Elemental Well, you're going to get to 100 intellect. Boom. You know, those are technical stat distributions that a lot of players like, you know, like going for those high hundreds, you know, like 400s, you know. This is a way for you to get, you know, almost to 6 100 stats in a pseudo around the ring kind of way without actually having to farm for armor. You know, so that's really helpful, especially for like lower end players. Now this build is usable for everybody. This can be used for people who've just started the game. Just don't worry about the mods too much, you know, just run Nightstalker. Just run Bottom Tree Nightstalker and just use what you like to use. The class literally does everything for you. If you're a higher end player, you know, tweak this to the way tweak this to your playstyle. You want to run Omnis, you know, tweak it. You want to run 6 Coyote, tweak it. You want to run Graviton Forfeit for, you know, just, you know, the fun of it like I did? Run it. You know, nothing's stopping you. Go for it. You can add whatever you want. You can take off whatever you want. You know, make this build your own and make sure that, you know, it feels comfortable to use. You know, you don't even have to run those stats. You know, run whatever you want to run. But, you know, a lot of people forget that Heart of the Pack gives you a huge stat bonus. You know, but just, you know, it's a good class. It does suck that, you know, Particle Decon and it doesn't stack anymore, because this would be a really good top tier option for end game content and just using it as a whole. Because I personally fell in love with Nightstalker when it came out in Taken King, and, you know, when Destiny 2 came out, and it sucks that, you know, now it's the only thing it's used for is smoke bombs and invisibility and those resistances while invisible. I'm hoping with Void 2.0, when that comes out, you know, it will be a little better. You know, I'm hoping that the changes they make will make it a little more viable in endgame content, without forcefully running Omnioculus or, you know, the exotics that I have mentioned here in this video. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you like. It's hard talking for 10 minutes because I get lightheaded because I haven't done this in 2 weeks. But with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed, and I hope you can take this build and make it your own and enjoy whatever holidays that you celebrate coming up in the future.